the last section, we talked about humidity, relative humidity, dew point, condensation, dew on blades of grass, we mentioned. In this video, we're focusing on clouds. There's a lot of dynamic stuff happening in clouds, and we're going to cover just the basics, the formation of the cloud, the nomenclature or the naming of these clouds, and the weather indicators provided by these clouds. Let's take a look. We're going to read the definition right from the Bowditch. Here it is. Clouds consist of innumerable tiny droplets of water or ice crystals formed by condensation of water vapor around microscopic particles in the air. Fog is a cloud in contact with the Earth's surface. Cool. What are those tiny microscopic particles in the air? They're called cloud condensation nuclei. They're defined as microscopic particles in the air that provide a surface on which the water condenses. They come from all over the place. There are a lot of microscopic particles in the air. They come from trees, the ocean, salt ends up in the atmosphere. It can help clouds condense. It's a whole rabbit hole in itself. But let's talk about cloud formation. How do clouds form? It starts with the sun. Without the sun, we would just be a frozen rust ball floating around in space, right? But the sun hits us, starts melting water and turning it to vapor and doing all these things. You can see this image about cloud formation here. We have the sun beating down on the earth. It warms the surface of the earth. The surface of the earth then warms the air above it. That warm air tends to rise. So the air rises, and as it rises, it cools. That's important because as air cools, its capacity to hold moisture decreases. So once it cools to its dew point, water vapor within that air condenses onto cloud condensation nuclei. And once they're numerous enough, they aggregate, they gather, you can see them and they're visible as a cloud. And then it goes on, and it starts to precipitate, it starts to rain, and it's a very dynamic system. So you get a cloud and then it goes on from there. We have to focus on just small parts of this because really we're watching this video for a purpose, and that is to do well on these practice quizzes and this Coast Guard approved final exam. That's our goal, right? Get this captain's license. So what topics relating to clouds do we really need to focus on? And that would be nomenclature, the naming of these clouds. Also, weather indicators. What weather is indicated by the presence of these clouds? Generally speaking, if you see one of these clouds, what can you expect with the weather in the next coming days or hours? Let's take a look at that. So nomenclature. I just want to define it real quick. It's a funny word. It's an important word. Nomenclature refers to a system or set of names or terms used in a particular field of study. Good, so we're naming things. In this case, it's the process of assigning names to clouds in a structured and organized way. So nomenclature is just a big word that means naming stuff to keep it structured and organized. Now, clouds have these prefixes. They all come from Latin. So these are the prefixes from Latin that describe clouds. I'll put these Latin prefixes up here on the board as I read them so you can listen to me read them and you can read them yourself at the same time, and hopefully they stick because they're going to be important in the future. Cirrus means curl, lock, or tuft of hair. Cumulus means a heap, pile, or an accumulation. Stratus means spread out, flattened, or covered with a layer. Alto means high or upper air. And nimbus means rainy cloud. Okay, so those are the Latin prefixes that help describe clouds. If you go through the reading, near the end, I give all the clouds, and I give their names and a little bit about them, and if they're high, middle, or low clouds. But let's circle back. Weather indicators. What weather is generally indicated by these clouds? It's interesting, right? Let's take a look. Again, I'm going to throw these up on the board so you can read them while I read them, and hopefully they stick. Here we go. Cumulus clouds suggest fair weather. Cirrus clouds often signal an approaching change in weather. Stratus clouds are associated with overcast skies and light rain or drizzle. Cumulonimbus clouds indicate thunderstorms and severe weather. We don't need to focus our attention on many other aspects of clouds and cloud formation other than cloud naming and those Latin prefixes and weather indicators suggested by the presence of these clouds. So we're going to leave it here for now. Check that reading out. There's some good images in there. Yeah, take your time on these clouds. Have fun, and we'll see you on the next video.